I'm not used to speaking to this kind of crowd. I'm usually talking to parents in a bit smaller groups or individually. So I'm a little bit nervous, I have to admit, and I might stumble up on my words due to my English is not my first language. And I just want to, before I get started, also add that today I will be talking a lot about some alternatives to spanking. I will talk a little bit about the research, and then my focus is going to be on what can we do instead. So this is what the spanking law, section 43 of the criminal code is stating. And as you can see, even there, they're talking about that it is a little bit controversial, as it is not in the best interest of the child. This is just a definition of what physical discipline means. So physical and or corporal punishment has been defined as the use of physical force towards a child that causes the child to experience pain but not injury for the purpose of correction or control of behavior. So now I'm going to get into some of the research, and I'm going to be some of the research that I have looked at is from the ACEs. I don't know how many people are familiar with that. That is the Adverse Child Experience Study, which is one of the largest studies that is looking at trauma, childhood trauma, and the implication it has on adulthood, when the child becomes an adult. So physical abuse is the #1 reason for childhood trauma. And they have about 10 different categories that they're looking at. So, and then we're looking at the risk of escalation. So when a parent is choosing to use physical punishment as a discipline technique, the chances of them escalating to a more abusive form of discipline is 4 times more likely. So using unreasonable force rather than the reasonable force. And then Statistics Canada and many other researchers have looked at how many parents in Canada are actually using physical punishment. And Perrin, Lee, and LaRouche, as well as Statistics Canada, have come to a conclusion that is 25% of Canadian parents are using physical punishment in children 2 to 11 years of age. The good news is that in 1994, they were 50%. So we're coming to a decline, and hopefully, this was done in 2009. So hopefully today at 2016, we are seeing some positive changes again. Then we're looking at some researchers have found that parents who are using physical punishment as a discipline form are stating that their children have worse behaviors, so more problem behaviors. The question is problem behaviors causing parents to spank, or is the spanking causing the children to misbehave? We know for a fact that parents who do report that they are using spanking are saying that their children have much bigger problem behaviors than parents who don't claim to use physical punishment as a disciplining form. But again, the question is how much is the spanking causing the negative behaviors? And then, as of today, there is no studies out there that are reliable that is showing that physical discipline enhances developmental health in children, long-term or short-term. And the only thing that we really know about using spanking is that, yeah, it does show some immediate effects on the child. The child stops the behavior, but it doesn't teach the child to do anything other than what they did. So the behavior is most likely to happen again, maybe not today, but in a couple of days. So that's that's that. United Nations, I don't know, I put in my abstract, excuse me, back in 2012, I don't know if anybody is following the United Nations and the rights of the child, but in 2012, at the 10-year review, Canada was actually kind of put into some bad tone because they were almost asked to leave the United Nations, and that was because they were not meeting the needs or meeting the standards of the rights of the child. So they are suggesting that corporal punishment and physical discipline should be not used, and that as a key strategy for reducing and preventing all forms of violence in society. I have lots of information on the ACEs study, if anybody is interested afterwards to ask some questions about that. Okay, so what does spanking do to our children's brain? So this is taken from, most of this is taken from Daniel Siegel and Tina Payne. They're a research couple and have written numerous books on how to parent and done a lot of research. So spanking, in their opinion, and a lot of other researchers, but I'm just happen to naming them, is supposed to be counterproductive. And when we're looking at the building a respectful relationship, some parents are saying that they're using spanking because they want respect from their child, but this is actually not the case. We're making no efforts in building a respectful relationship when we are using spanking. And if we're looking at the brain development, so spanking is absolutely not making any positive impact on the child's brain development. It is also counterproductive in the sense of that we're shifting the attention of the child's behavior to the behavior of the adult. So the child now, instead of focusing on what I did wrong, they are focusing on what the parent is doing to them, the spanking. So it's, again, counterproductive in that way. Lots of parents are claiming that, but I'll do spanking with love and nurturing. But again, there is no research that shows that that makes any difference at all. If you're doing it out of anger or out of love, they had the same negative outcomes and loss of brain growth. When a caregiver inflicting pain or fear, which you do when you do use spanking, the child senses some fear and pain. That's the whole point of it. When the caregiver, who is supposed to be the safe and secure person, is doing that to the child, there are confusion happening in the brain, and we call this disorganized attachment. So what really is happening is that the brain is becoming disorganized in its functioning. And we can sometimes look at this at the reptile brain and the more wise, sophisticated brain. There is no connection. So there's a loss of connection between the two brains. And this causes a lot of confusion for the child. And this is also related to executive functioning, which is a core skill that children need to have. It's a social skill, but when there's dysfunction in the brain, or disorganized attachment, that the executive functioning skills are not developing as much in the child. And they do need them for school. That's the number one skill that a child needs to be successful in school. So there's a question there on the end, and this is coming from Tina and Daniel. Do we really want to teach our children that the way to resolve a conflict is to inflict physical pain, particularly on someone who is defenseless and cannot fight back? So that's the question. Is that really the message we want to give our children? All right, so here are some stats on what the implication has on childhood when you're being spanked. And this research come from Gershoff, I think you pronounce it, and he looked at 88 studies on spanking. So this is a huge compilation of all these different studies. So the implication it has on childhood is more aggression. So children who are spanked are more aggressive. They are less verbal because they're not developing the verbal skills that they need. There are more delinquency and antisocial behaviors. And there is a lack of integration in the brain. And that executive functioning skill is not being developed. And there is more mental health issues. So I was talking about the ACEs that are looking at childhood trauma and then the outcomes it has for adults. So children who are going through any form of trauma or being physically punished have more likely to have addictions, mental health issues, and health problems such as diabetes, heart attacks, any physical illnesses. And they're usually more likely to have physical violence within their family unit and dysfunction. If anybody is interested in looking up the executive functioning skills that I'm talking about, Alberta Family Health and Wellness, on their website, they have 4 really amazing videos that are meant to be used for families, but one is on executive functioning. All right, so let's start looking at the things that we can do instead. So let's reframe the whole spanking to a more positive outcome. So the definition of discipline is originally from the root word disciplinaire, which means to teach and or instruct. So if we really have that in mind when we're thinking about disciplining our children, we have a different look at it, right? If we want to teach them something, we have to do more than just a smack on the bum. I love this quote. I use it quite often. So this is about children. Learning to be, learning to do, learning to learn, and learning to live together should be considered as critical element in the journey of each child toward human and social development. So it's about learning. We are the parents, and our job is to teach them the moments, use the moments to teach them new skills. So we have some different parenting styles that have been identified. So these have been around for many, many years, since the 60s, but they're still being used, and there's continuously being researched on the best forms of the different parenting styles. But to summarize them, we have the permissive parenting style, the authoritarian parenting style, and the authoritative parenting style. So the permissive parenting style, it's nurturing and warm, which children need, which is great. But then the permissive parent is more reluctant to impose limits and rules, which children also need. So without rules, children get confused and they don't know how to act and are more likely to act out and in the home and in society. And permissive parents usually let their children regulate themselves. So they're being left to solve their own problems without that guiding, without that teaching moment. So that teaching moment is lost. And then we have the authoritarian parenting, which is little nurturing, lots of psychological control. It's more of a controlling, coming from the above as the word authoritarian. So they don't encourage verbal give and take. There is no dialogue. There is no learning opportunities. There is no back and forth. We also know that back and forth, the serve and return when we're talking about brain development is really, really important. They are obedience and status oriented and expect their orders to be obeyed without question. So there is no moment for the child to learn to compromise, I guess. There's no compromise. And they tend to control their children through shaming or removing of love. I'm not talking to you. Or experiences. You don't get to go to the party because you misbehaved. And then they attempt to explain the reasons, don't attempt to explain the reasons for the rules if they do have rules. So it's just like, you should just know, or because I say so. And then we have the authoritative parenting style. And it's about setting limits, reasoning with a child, and being responsive to their emotional needs. And this is, I think, is the biggest difference, is that being responsive to their emotional needs. So the authoritative parenting is linked to the most successful child outcomes. And children raised by authoritative parents are more likely to become independent, self-reliant, socially accepted, and have that executive functioning skill, academically successful, and more well-behaved. And they're less likely to report things like depression and anxiety, and are less likely to engage in antisocial behaviors. And research shows that even if a child only has one parent that has this positive parenting style, they have better outcomes. So both parents don't necessarily have to have that style. All right, now I'm getting into the things that we can do, but I first want to talk about some parent traps that we often get into and are often the reasons why children are getting into troublesome behaviors or misbehaving. So the first one is accidental rewards. I'm sure a lot of you have done them in the past. I know I have for sure. So accidental rewards is when we accidentally are rewarding a behavior that we don't like. So for example, if our children are fighting, sibling fighting, for example, and we are constantly there telling them, don't fight, don't fight, don't fight, don't fight, and not giving them any skills, but just constantly talk, or even spanking them for it, we're giving that behavior a lot of attention. And we all know that children thrive on attention. The behaviors that will get the attention will continue. So accidental rewards can also be a child asking for something at the grocery store, and you say no, 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 and then you just are so sick of hearing that, so you say, okay, sure, but shut up. Oh, sorry. That is also an accidental reward. The second trap is ignoring desirable behaviors. So as I said earlier, children thrive on attention. So if we're forgetting to give them attention for the behaviors that we like, they are gonna see, well, there's no point in doing this because I'm not getting attention from that. I better go hit my brother because then I get some attention. And another one is watching parents' bad habits. So we are the role models. We are there to teach them. If we are talking to our friends or our spouse in a rudely manner, they will talk the same. Or if we are swearing, whatever we're doing, they will be doing. So think about how you behave around your children. The escalation trap is another one, and that can go for both child and adult. So it's when we are asking our child to do something and we are escalating until the time point we're screaming, and then the child actually goes and does it. So we are thinking, hey, the only way I can get my child's attention is to scream. Which is not true. We'll be talking about that later. If we're just using clear, calm instructions, the child will be more likely to listen. The escalation trap goes for the child too. They will nag and nag and nag and nag until we just, and they finally they're screaming or just so upset that we give in because we just can't handle it. And the child is learning, hey, I have to escalate. I have to really show my emotions and to be really angry and frustrated, and then I'll get it. The other parent trap is inconsistency, so ineffective use of consequences. When we don't have a plan, when we do one thing one day, another thing the next day, the child has no idea what the outcomes is of choosing to hit your brother. Another one is unhelpful beliefs. So that is meaning that we think it's just a phase. If I just ignore it, it will go away. Or thinking that it's the child, or that my child is just bad. Having those kind of unhelpful beliefs, rather than thinking of what is my job in here. Emotional messages, so really focusing on all the negatives and talking about your own problems too much with the child, and also focusing on the child being a problem rather than the behavior being a problem is another emotional messages. And then the last one, toxic stress environment. Toxic stress could be things like watching family violence, a lot of yelling and screaming, parents having substance abuse, those kind of things. If you want to know more about toxic stress and what that does to your brain, again, Alberta Family Health and Wellness does have a fantastic video on that topic. So it was mentioned that I am the Triple P Positive Parenting Coordinator for our region, so I brought in some strategies from that program. It is a well-researched program, so it has about 30 years of research behind it. Actually, these parent traps came from that program too. So the Positive Parenting Program started in Australia and has developed since. It's used in about 29 different countries in the world, and with many different types of parents. And it has, as I said, it has a lot of research that it actually works. And Cindy and I had the fine opportunity to go to Banff and meet Matt Sanders, who's behind it, and all of his colleagues who are continuously working on proving the benefits of this program in research. Okay, so the positive parenting strategies these are kind of the core elements that you have to do before you do anything else. So the first one is ensuring a safe, interesting environment. Make sure this environment is safe. So younger children, you know all that, baby safetying when they get older, knowing where they're at, who they're with, and what they're doing. And then having an interesting environment, so children who are busy are less likely to get into problem behaviors. And then creating a positive learning environment. So basically being there for your child when your child approaches you. That's when their brain is open for learning. Take that moment when they approach you, want to show something to you, take it and take that opportunity for that moment to learn. The third one is having assertive discipline, so authoritative parenting, having a plan, being consistent, being decisive, and being fair. The other one is creating realistic expectations. So where's my child developmentally? What are my limits as a parent? How much support do I have? Will I actually be able to follow through with this consequence? You know, those kind of asking yourself some questions where so you make sure you have realistic expectations. Most important, get support, take care of yourself. Without support, you're not going to be successful. It takes a lot of work, and it's the hardest job out there to raise a child. And as you all know, the familiar statement, it takes a village to raise a child. And then the sixth component is get to know your child and observe behaviors, identify the antecedents of what happened before this behavior, what happened after, what did I do, what caused this, to kind of ask you some questions. What could I have, as a parent, have done differently in this scenario to prevent my child from having this struggle? I was going to talk about the ABC of behavior, but I think I'm going to skip that. What I just mentioned was kind of the ABC of behaviors. So you're looking at the antecedents, you're looking at the consequences, and then asking yourself, could I have done something to prevent this behavior? So a stress behavior is a behavior that you could have prevented as a caregiver, or the environment. So there are two components to encourage or positive parenting. So the first one is encouraging behaviors we like, and the other one is managing misbehaviors. And before we even get to the managing misbehaviors, we really need to focus on the behaviors or the strategies that encourage the behaviors that we like. So these are some. I only have 2 more minutes, so I'm just quickly going to go over them. But they kind of go in a hierarchy too. So you start with, if you don't have a relationship, you need to start there. Develop a positive relationship, spending quality time with your child, connect with them, get to know them, communicate and show your child, and listen and show affection, lots of physical affection. That gets harder as the child grows and gets older, but it's still important. And then the second component is encouraging the behaviors or the desirable behaviors. So praise. I can't say enough about praise. We need to praise, 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 and be kind of a detective on those behaviors that we like. If there's lots of misbehaviors, try to find that magnifying glass and find those good behaviors and praise. Lots of positive attention, so time in, connecting. Planned age-appropriate activities. As I said earlier, busy children are less likely to get into trouble. And then set routine and schedules. Children thrive on routine and schedules. It's predictable. It makes them feel safe. And the third component is teaching new skills and behaviors. So when a child, we have to remember, they're learning. They don't know everything. So we have to teach them those new skills. If they don't know how to play nicely with brother, it's our job to help them, to teach them to do that skill better. So role model. Lots of role modeling, being patient, and remember that the child is learning still. They're still learning, so we need to show them. Ask, say, do is a strategy. Basically, you ask if the child knows how to do it. If they don't, then you say it, and then you ask the child to do it. Incidental teaching is when the child approaches you, take that moment, and rewards. Privileges, behavior contracts, and charts are for those skills that they are having a struggle with to learn. All right. I have 1 more minute. Oh, I'm done. Okay, this is the last slide. Yeah, this is the last slide. So then we're coming to managing the behaviors we don't like. So again, remember, these are only to be used if you have done all the strategies to encourage the behaviors you like. Well, a few of them. Giving clear, calm instructions you can do at any time. So that's really important. And I have highlighted the calmness because that is really, really important, that we are calm. We go through different zones of regulation throughout the day, and when we are in a heightened alert state, we are not making any sense, and we're not. So that's when we are angry, frustrated, those kind of things. So we have to be calm when we're giving the instructions.